Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Grace is found is where you are. And where you are, I just do it low. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Your holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you.
Paul, man. Yeah, I always say one of my greatest gifts of my 5 years in Gillette was meeting Paul Casey, man.
come on,
So
man.
it's good. We had some good times
Come on.
there. So no, it's great. So you're part of the school staff there at John Paul II Catholic School there in Gillette, huh?
Yep.
Music teacher / everything else.
Well, I've been a music teacher for about the last 8 years. The priest that was there previous to Father Steve and you, Father Cliff, would ask me to become the music teacher on several occasions, and I declined respectfully. I would help out. I would sing and play at mass and substitute teach occasionally, and so that's how they knew me. And I can't read music, and so I felt a music teacher should be able to at least be able to read music.
You think?
Yeah. So they started a middle school, and the principal at the time asked me if I would teach language arts, which I did. I taught English and religion and social studies for 2 years, and we just didn't have enough kids to justify keeping a middle school. And then they asked me again, well, would you be the music teacher? So that's what I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years now. So
That's awesome. You do a great job there.
thank you.
Always, every time you played at Mass, I always kind of felt like we should put a little sawdust down on the floor of the sanctuary. It's just got that good old country
It's
twang
got a little
to it,
cowboy,
man.
little cowboy background
Yeah,
too.
that's awesome. So you do a great job.
Thank you.
No, it's beautiful. Thanks for sharing a little bit. Maybe we can get back to it. If the spirit moves you, we'll see.
Sure.
But yeah, we just want to get to know Paul Casey. You're just such
Okay.
a interesting man all around, a man with many hats. Hard to kind of put in a box. Catholic cowboy, and then some. Wrestler, father of 3, husband. Yeah. So anyway, just tell me, where'd Paul come from? How did this whole thing get going?
How far back do you
Let's
want
go to the beginning. man.
Okay. All right. So
Just don't get into the whole Irish thing.
no.
No.
You don't want to hear the whole history
Not
of
the whole
Ireland?
history of
Okay.
Ireland.
I was born in England, actually.
Interesting.
My mother is British. My father was in the Air Force. I'm number 4 of 6 kids. Dad was raised, he's Irish, Polish, raised in Connecticut, kind of an old school Catholic. And my mother was raised in the Church of England. She was not Catholic. In fact, I think she converted I think I was already around, so it took her a while. She didn't actually convert right away, and like a lot of, I don't know what you call it when people are, one person's Catholic and the other isn't.
Gotcha.
Marry into the church. She agreed to raise the children Catholic, and so we, we're the old 60s and 70s family. We'd go to church every Sunday, and that was kind of my background there. we traveled around quite a bit. It was during the Vietnam era.
So your dad is in the Air Force? Or
Yep, he was in the Air
Yep.
Force. Yeah, I should have said that. He was in the Air Force. He was in for 20 years. He served in Southeast Asia for 2 separate years. I think I was talking to somebody the other day. I think I lived in 8 or 9 different places by the time I was in 3rd grade.
Gotcha.
So we traveled around quite a bit. As a family, we were pretty close because, you had to leave your friends quite often. A lot of the places that we stayed, though, were other military families. We lived in, for instance, in Kansas at one point, and everybody that was on that base, their fathers were serving in Vietnam or Southeast Asia. So a lot of POW families and MIA families. And so it was just a unique experience to grow up there. And that's how we ended up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Got there when I was about 3rd grade. And then Dad retired from the Air Force and got in the banking business and bought a little house in town. And we were, grew up in Cheyenne pretty much. But Dad was real heavily involved with Cheyenne Frontier Days, as are a lot of people that live in Cheyenne. Cheyenne Frontier Days is it's known as the daddy of them all. And it's one of the oldest big rodeos in America. It is the largest rodeo in the United States. I don't think it's the largest in America, or in North America. I think Calgary has a speed.
Calgary's big.
But anyway, so I grew up running around behind the chutes when I was a kid, and my father and my brother and I, we would work on they had the largest horse-drawn parade in the world at Cheyenne Frontier Days, and we would work on the wagons all winter long. My dad, and so I learned how to weld, and they had some older guys that would come in that, when they would remodel those old wagons, they do them exactly perfect the way they were from the early 1900s, late 1800s. So it's pretty cool. Got to spend some time with some different old characters.
So we're talking 80s?
I graduated high school
So-
in '83, but so this would have been in the '70s.
Well, in the 70s, yeah.
Yeah, in the later '70s probably. But I got to meet guys that were in their 80s and
Yeah.
90s at that time.
Yeah, old cowboys.
Yeah, guys that were before the vehicles
Yeah.
assisted in ranch work and all that stuff. There was one old guy. His name was Brueggemann. His son was Paul Brueggemann, and he's one of the best pickup men in the world. And the old man, I would go out with him in the mornings. I'd get there at about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and we would hook up a team and drive the teams to get them ready for the parade around the arena at Cheyenne Frontier Days at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's pretty cool. And he'd tell me old stories. He knew who Steamboat was. The bucking horse that's on the Wyoming license plate. He had seen that horse buck and knew lots of the old names of all the old cowboys and stuff. So it was a pretty neat environment to be around as a little boy.
That's awesome. I mean, Cheyenne Frontier Days is huge. Just as you're talking about, it reminded me of a couple stories. Well, especially like the parade. So the parade goes around downtown. It goes right by St. Mary's Cathedral, right downtown. So a couple stories. One, and you could, if you know the story, correct me, Father Mike Carr. I don't know if he was the director of the cathedral. He was there, but I don't know if they had him maybe he was on a wagon, and the wagon master kind of jumped off and said, "Hey, just hang on to reins here for a minute." And something spooked them horses, and he had a little runaway in the parade there. I think it was in the actual parade, but the stop, some of the staging stuff. You got her shut down. However, the rest.
Wow,
of the
this is crazy you're saying this, because I was actually on a runaway wagon when I was a kid
That might have
at Cheyenne. They had a branding float, and it was made out of an old railroad car, and they had a corral built on top of it, and we had an actual fire on the branding float. And there's a horse and a couple calves, and we would pretend like we'd throw calves like we were branding them, and then we'd brand a piece of carpet, and the carpet would throw the smoke up, and so we kept throwing these calves all through the parade, and we reached toward the end, and we were actually going by the bishop's house, which is on Carrion Persian. It's about 8 blocks from Cheyenne Frontiers, and there was no one around. And another wagon came by us. I think it was the Schlitz wagon or
Schlitz beer.
yeah. And it had a black stagecoach with 8 beautiful black horses, pulling this thing. And our wagon had 4 Clydesdale mixed wagon because it was a huge, heavy wagon. And we had an outrider with us the whole time. And what an outrider is, that's a cowboy that rides along with you, that if there's a problem, they can rope the horse and kind of keep everything together. Well, the outrider had already left.
It was done.
Because we were out of the parade route at that point, and we're just heading home. Mm-hmm. And that Schlitz wagon went past us, and those horses got antsy. And after a minute, they're kind of sidestepping, and then pretty soon they broke into a full trot and then a full run. And we were going up the street, and I think we hit 4 vehicles, smashed them. I still remember vehicles going through the air, all the way off the ground, lifting them off the ground, going, and then making it around the corner. And it was a long 8 blocks. As little kids, we thought it was kind of cool. We were kind of hanging onto the rails, We didn't really know what was happening. And one of the drivers dove off and went down the street, and he was the only one that got hurt. The rest of us were
ride it out. That's wild.
It was pretty crazy. So
I cut my teeth on a runaway train.
Did you really?
Yeah, we in the wagon train in 1990 when Wyoming turned 100. They had several wagon trains throughout the state, and Dad fixed up an old wagon, buggy, and it was working good. And the second day it was rainy, same kind of deal, and we switched horses, and that new horse was acting up in the rain, and so we were taking our time, and some wagon went flying by us, and at that time I was the only one in the wagon. Dad was working the horse.
It's on.
Whack. He just stood up on his rear end, and we jackknifed that wagon. He sat down, and I'm sitting there, 10-year-old kid, and it wasn't a runaway, but it was a wreck.
Right.
So yeah, I cut my teeth on that. And then, so the other thing is Cheyenne Frontier Days, that buggy of ours came off a ranch in Big Trails, Wyoming, that my grandpa purchased the day my dad was born, July 10th, 1951, which is the birthday of Wyoming. So anyway, so that buggy was there. Well, part of that ranch was once owned by the 4th governor of Wyoming, Richards. I can't remember if it's John Richards or not, but Richards. And there's some history there. But we've always said that there's a reasonable chance that wagon was once his.
Sure.
So my horse Chief, we've got broke to drive. Mm-hmm. And so one Cheyenne Frontier Days, I called down there and said, hey, I've got this wagon. It's got some history. So Dad and I wheeled her down there to Cheyenne. And we got in the parade. We were right behind Governor Meade.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. We're just right.
Perfect.
It was really beautiful. It was a kind of an opportunity for us.
Full circle for the wagon.
Yeah. So Cheyenne's big.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I mean, it's got good Catholic roots for you. The rodeo's big. I met we're kind of swapping stories here, but I happened to meet a few years ago, a kid broke the saddle bronc arena record in Cheyenne.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you can win a gold buckle in NFR. That's awesome. You own the saddle bronc record, the daddy of them all.
Yeah.
That's a feather in your hat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ryder Sanford from Sulphur, Louisiana. I ran into him in Las Vegas. That was my one fangirl moment. My buddy and I we were at the motel. Father Zane Peckran and I went to the NFR, and we're just kind of, we never been to Las Vegas. We're feeling it out. And walking by, and Cowboys are walking by, and there's Ryder Sanford. I'm like, Ryder! Just fangirled it, man. He came over and talk. But anyway, so in a way, it's a big rodeo.
Yeah.
And not to, but you were there when Lane Frost
I was,
died.
Yeah. So my dad was on the committee. Yeah. And so the committee men are the chairman of, they've got a parade committee, they've got a rodeo committee, they've got the Indian committee. So there's committees for each of the parts of Cheyenne Frontier Days, and he was public relations. And so the committee men kind of had their own parking lot right across from the arena, or on the arena, but kind of on the stand side, on the north side. And I'd gone to see my dad for something. I just went over there, and we were just fairly far away, but kind of just watching the rodeo. And unfortunately, I saw him die, and it was pretty profound at the time. Obviously, people got to know him even more, I think, after his death, and he's become, legendary, and really was kind of at that time too.
Sure.
I mean, he was already a pretty well-known bull rider, and so I can still see it, the image in my mind. It was a really a sad day for him, his family, and for rodeo, but he was an American hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's those guys are kind of cowboy saints in a way. I mean, their legend becomes bigger after they die.
Sure.
Similar with canonized saints in the Catholic Church. Chris Ledoux, we're in Johnson County. Chris Ledoux is an Air Force brat like yourself. So
He used to sell his tapes underneath the stands right there at Shine Frontier Days. And he'd ride in the rodeo, and then he'd come back around and sell his records and tapes right there.
I think he's one of two guys who have ridden in Cheyenne Frontiers days and also played at the scene. So he's done that. Like he played at the concert, rode in the rodeo.
Right.
Chancey Williams.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, Chancey
that's
Williams,
awesome.
Catholic kid from Moorcroft.
Yep.
Know him well.
No Chancey.
He's got some good albums out. He's kind of the Chris Ledoux of today. He sings that cowboy music. And
well, so we're connected a little bit because my wrestling club used to do a fundraiser at a concert that he does every year in Gillette, which is the New Year's
Buck
Eve
and Ball?
concert. The Buck and Ball. Yeah. And so the lady that ran that would always let us serve, and had some of the parents of my wrestling club help out, and then they would give us part of the proceeds from the rodeo. So it was kind of neat, and then got to know Chancey through that. But I know his brother really well. His brother Charlie is a wrestling coach, and I'm a wrestling coach, and my son used to wrestle for Charlie, and so that's how Wyoming is. Wyoming has 1 degree of separation. If you meet somebody from a town, you can talk for 5 minutes and you'll have a common friend that you know. And I think rodeo's that way too.
yeah, I always say, and the church is this way. So I always say, hey, it's a small world and an even smaller church.
Yeah.
You just
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
But I bet wrestling is super that way. Like
100%.
Yeah, you guys.
100%. From little kid all the way up to the international level, there's again like 1 degree of separation from everybody. I know so-and-so who knows so-and-so. You're all kind of connected. It's kind of neat. Yeah.
Well, how the heck did you get from Cheyenne to now Gillette, Wyoming, Campbell County?
Yep.
There's a few things in between there.
So, boy, there's a lot.
Yeah, you can jump to whatever.
There's a lot in between there. I met my wife in Cheyenne. She was actually home on break. She was going to medical school out in Creighton. She's a family practice doctor. And we met and continued to date. And then when she graduated, she came back, and we got married at St. Mary's in Cheyenne.
By Father Carl Beavers?
No, Beavers actually started us.
Okay.
When we first were gonna do this thing, he was the first priest we met with. And then we met with Father Pete Johnson.
Former pastor here.
Well, was he
Yeah.
in Buffalo? Okay. So, I met with him. He was kind of a fire and brimstone type. Yeah, I think he's a convert. And so he's an interesting guy, and had lots of lively debates with him. And then got married in St. Mary's, and we actually got married by Father Bill Caspers, who was a Air Force chaplain priest. And we knew him from another place that we were stationed before we moved to Wyoming.
Awesome.
And then he came to Wyoming, and we got to reunite with him here. And then he retired, and he moved to Idaho. And the bishop asked him to come back and be a fill-in. And I think he was in Guernsey for a while. And anyway, it was sort of in that interim. And I said, "Hey, Father Caspers, would you marry us?" And he did. And so we got married at St. Mary's in Cheyenne, and it was a beautiful wedding and an occasion. And then my wife did her residency in Cheyenne, and then as part of her residency, she had done a rotation up in Sundance, Wyoming, which is one of the most rural counties in the state.
Is there not a stoplight in that county? Is it Crook County?
I'm
Not in
thinking you're
Hewlett, not in
right. I'm
Sundance,
thinking you're right.
not in Moorcroft.
No, I think you're
And,
right.
yeah, I think that's Father
Yeah.
Brian Hess's claim to fame, that he's
Okay.
pastor of the one county without a stoplight.
Yes. So yeah, I never really thought about it, but that's
Yeah.
actually right.
So-
So, the county was as big as Delaware, and had 5,000 residents. In it.
Yeah, that's Wyoming.
Yeah.
You know, it's really kind of special, as you mentioned, that the Air Force chaplain did your wedding, which wasn't necessarily planned, but it's kind of fitting,
Yeah.
being that like your faith was kind of grew in the midst of Air Force bases, right? I mean, you kind of had the experience of a lot of Air Force chaplains and
That's true.
military chaplains.
Yep.
Right? So kind of
100%. That's
kinda full
how I grew
circle.
up. There was always Air Force chaplains.
Yeah.
In fact, even though I lived in the town of Cheyenne, once my dad retired, I continued to go to CCD and I got my confirmation prep on the Air
on
Force
the base.
Yep,
Wasn't even
I
living
did.
there, but you went back.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, just
So-
familiar. Neat. Okay, that's good. I mean, I can see that really shaping your faith and then shaping your like a better word, social skills. I mean, just being able to kind of roll with a lot of people. You do that well. And I could see that.
Never
really-
thought about it, but
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
I could see
sure.
those, that kind of intermingling, kind of just having to make your way with what you're given there. Kind of suit you well for the path the Lord's taken you. So you're at Sundance. That's when you kind of got into a little bit more cowboy and actual like personal cowboy.
Yep.
And
Exactly. Yeah. So Sundance, most of the people that live there are agricultural people. Lots of cowboys.
Named after. It's not named after Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, is it?
He
Or
is named after the town.
Interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Sundance being probably an old Native American
Yeah.
Sundance
Right.
deal.
Yeah. Sundance Kid. That's actually where he got his name,
Okay.
because there is Sundance, Utah too. But he was not. He was named out. He was incarcerated in Sundance, Wyoming for
We'll take it.
a little bit of time, and they've got a little statue. You can go sit next to him if you want to there.
Interesting.
But yeah. So we, like I said, Cindy, my wife, she had done part of her a rotation up there when she was in residency, and we fell in love with the place. And I said, man, if we could ever live here, this is where I'd want to live. And God provides, right? And so a couple years later, there we were, and she had started practice in Laramie, and decided to wasn't going to buy into that practice, and so we started looking for a job. And about that same time, I guess it'd be a good time to bring it up. I used to manage a 5-line car dealership there, and then
In Laramie.
In Laramie, yes. And then my wife got pregnant with twins in her first year in practice there, and then so we decided, we talked about it, prayed about it. We were gonna kind of be a little yuppie couple, own a car dealership, and she was delivering babies at that time, and we were didn't see each other a whole lot. And when she got pregnant with the twins, we were going to hire a nanny to be in the house and all that. And then we got to, once the babies came, we're like, what are we doing? Are we gonna be parents, or are we gonna have a bunch of cool stuff in our driveway? And so talked about it, prayed about it, and decided to go ahead and she's the one that suggested it. Mr. Mom wasn't a common thing 25 years ago. And she said, well, why don't you stay home with them? And long story short, that's where we ended up. It was probably tough for the first year, 'cause
Being a stay-at-home dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I had a pretty high intensity job with employees and all that stuff. And I was actually in the process of buying the car dealership. And then so there I was with 2 little twin girls, but it was wonderful, and we feel that it was the best possible thing that we could do for our family. And I think in a perfect world, when kids are young, if the mother can be at home with them, and I hope this isn't controversial, but if the mom can be at home with them, that is the best scenario. But if not, having a parent at home with them is good. I think mothers are a little bit more nurturing at the young age. Not that I wasn't loving to my kids, but I'm a guy.
You're kind of soft too.
I'm a yeah, exactly. I'm a dude, and so it's like, but anyway, so the girls were 6 months old when we went on the interview trail, and we're looking up through Montana, and we were gonna. She got several job offers throughout Montana, and then the Sundance hospital called us and said, "Hey, heard you guys are looking," and she'd already worked there while she was in residency for a little bit, so they knew her, and anyway, long story short, we got to go to our dream location. Lived in town for about a year, and then found a little ranch west of town, and bought the ranch, and there we were. I wasn't a cowboy. Grew up around rodeo cowboys, loved them, but I had no idea what I was doing. And but I had a great opportunity to be able to work with guys. The neighbors were wonderful. I never pretended I knew more than I did. I'd always say, "Hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me?" "Yeah, sure." And there, it was really an old school kind of culture there. Neighbors helped each other out. I kind of got integrated into the culture. I went to a horseshoeing school. I became a farrier. It was kind of a funny story. At the first day of school, the guy was going around asking why you were there, and I said, I can't ever find a farrier to shoe my horses. And he says, "You'll be shoeing within a year." No,
I just want to shoe my own. That's
I am
all.
not. I'm just going to be shoeing my own. I have no desire to do this for a living. And he said, "No, you will." He said, "It'll start with a neighbor. Neighbor's going to need, just this one time. Can you shoe a horse for me?" And he said, "Pretty soon you're going to be."
I know a guy that can shoe.
Yep. And that's actually, it's probably a good segue. That's how I started shoeing. And unlike probably even 30 years ago, if somebody had a horse, they were rural people. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, a lot of people have the ability to have, 10 acres and a horse. And so I found myself trimming hooves and shoeing horses of people, lots of different people needed the help. But I also found that a lot of people didn't really understand their animal that much, me including in the beginning. Gotcha. And so did you want to talk about horse training?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
Keep going up, man.
I was always fascinated with guys that could shoe a horse. To me, that was magical. How you could take a piece of iron and run nails through an animal's foot
while it stood there.
While he stands there.
Yeah.
It was just cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there was something very romantic, very Western about that. So that's kind of why when I went to school for it, that kind of I learned how to do it. I learned a lot more about hand. If you get underneath a horse, you better know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot through that process. That was also in the early days of RFD television.
Sure.
And I used to watch that, because I had little kids at home, and so when I wasn't out working out around the ranch, I'd watch a lot of the horse training shows. People like Clinton Anderson, Craig, what was his name? He's an old bronc rider. I'll think of it here in a minute. Anyway, a lot of the different trainers and whatnot, and I would just try to learn as much as I could, take notes on it. And then the guys around Sundance who were horse trainers, I'd always ask a lot of questions about them. And everybody had different ideas about how they do it, And so I learned a lot from hands-on around, and then I also learned a lot from just studying the different techniques.
Sure.
And kind of coming up with my own deal. And but I found that there were a lot of people that, they had the romantic idea of having a horse and their heart's in the right place, but they didn't understand how the animal thinks. And for instance, if you're, I remember shoeing a horse for a lady, and the horse was kind of bumping her around like this. And she goes, "Oh, he just loves me. He likes to rub on me." And I'm like, "No, he's trying to dominate you right now." Yeah. But she had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I found myself teaching people that were just like me, that just really loved the cowboy culture and wanted to be around animals and learn more about them. I teach them a lot of groundwork, Clinton Anderson is one that talks about bending and sending.
Oh yeah, man.
You know, it's making the horse soft and be able to move their feet forward, backward, and left and right on your command. So you're in control of the movements of the horse, which makes them a safe animal, you know, to be able to ride and be around. If they don't have that, you know, their natural instinct is to flee, and if they're cornered, to fight. You know, and so you've got to if you can learn how to, you know, move the feet of that horse forward, left, you know, forward, backward, and left and right, whether you're on the ground or in the saddle, makes a whole difference. You know, and there becomes a relationship too between you and the animal that's a lot more what those people are looking for, that friendship, because then they trust you. And if you look at a bunch of horses out on a line, you know, there's a leader out there, usually a mare, right? But there's a boss and there's a pecking order that goes out, and that's how those animals think, you know. And so it's not mean, but you need to place yourself at the top of that pecking order if you're going to be around these animals. Otherwise, they're going to put themselves at the top, and then they push you around and step on you and maybe nip at you and hurt you. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a dangerous proposition in general, but so interesting. The method you're talking about, it's the newer method of starting horses versus breaking horses,
Right.
you know. But I grew up riding horses, not, you know, like for a living kind of stuff, but definitely around them a lot, or quite a bit. I mean, you know, so I knew how to kind of stay on a horse and, you know, this, that, grab leather. That was about it. But then it was years, you know, there's probably 10 years after high school, I didn't ride a whole lot. And then through seminary, not much. And then on my first assignment, I got old Chief. And so Chief kind of come running in. That's a neat story. But with the help of some people who knew what they're doing, we trained him. We started him like you're talking about, and then made a horse out of him. Well, the education I was getting there, I felt like I'd never been on a horse before, because it's such a different relationship with the animal of being, you know, knowing what he's thinking, what he's doing, pressure release, all that stuff, versus just kind of dominating and so it's a whole different mindset, and it really gets you into the mind of horse. One thing is you were talking that I thought of is that, I mean, a horse is it's a herd animal. Okay. And it as a herd animal, it wants to follow. And if you can make yourself a person, a creature worth following, it will follow you, just like a herd animal. But it takes the right kind of authority, right? Not just if you do that, I'm going to hurt you kind of authority. They won't follow that. They might do it out of fear, but the first chance to dump you, they'll do it.
Right.
You know, so it's such an interesting whole mentality.
Well, it's interesting too, like you said, the newer way of thinking. One of the earliest guys that was doing this, it's called natural horsemanship, was Tom Dorrance. And then what was his
Ray Hunt.
Ray Hunt was one of his students.
Gotcha.
Right. And so Ray Hunt was kind of the godfather of it, right? The horse whisperer thing. What got lost in some of that, and some of the more traditional old time cowboys that would break horses that I have the greatest amount of respect for, a lot of that kind of got softened a little bit too much by Hollywood. And I found that even with my training and working with horses, you know, you're not whispering in their ear, loving up on them. You're just using their natural instincts to move their feet and get them to trust you through that process. That's what ends up happening. I shoed horses for a guy who was a pickup man, and he broke everything from the saddle. So you go to his place, you better have your game face on.
Gotcha.
Now, these horses weren't mean, but they were a lot more ouchy on the ground than a horse that you've spent a lot of time doing groundwork and picking feet up all the time. He did everything from the saddle. And so I liked what I did because it worked for me, but I never was begrudging toward the guys that did it the old school way. You know, I felt that for me personally, not growing up around them, I had a as my dad would say, what do you say? That, no fear and no brains or something like that. Because I was always was willing to just jump on an animal or go down a ski slope and had no fear. But at the same time, I found that with a lot of these people with 10 acres and a horse, they were putting themselves into unsafe situations. I had a little old lady that I started several horses for. She was 65 and grew up in a ranching family her whole life. And she had some, I won't say the name of them because they're famous rodeo folks that some of their kids had started one of their horses for them. And, you can go and you throw a saddle on them and cinch it up and everything was great. But there was,
hang on.
Yeah, there was times where that horse was, you better be able to be a good bronc rider to do it. And the more time you spend on the ground with them and get them to where they're soft and gentle and they move, they're just better in the saddle, especially for a little old lady like that.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I always tell the people is they have a brain. So people used to say, well, that horse is bomb-proof. And there's no such thing as a bomb-proof horse. Yeah. It just isn't, because they have a brain.
The old guy that I rode with, he said, the oldest, gentlest horse will still hurt you.
Absolutely. That's it right there. So, and, you have a higher likeliness that they won't if you spend a little bit of time with them and do the right things and help them to get there. And that's how you and I got to.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Working with horses together a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's good. Our paths crossed because I was assigned at St. Matthew's in Gillette, your parish, and the Catholic school you were there too. But I brought one horse over there, of course, but I needed another one just to, go riding with some buddies. And the Lord gave that to me, but my cousin gave me a colt, and I brought her home. And just like typical Lundgren fashion, just like, okay, now what do I do? I had big hopes, but it was a great opportunity. So I invited, hey, Paul, you wanna show me a few things on how to start this horse? And she was kind of a brawny mare, 2-year-old, Molly, her name Molly, and you'd been out of it for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd been 10 years.
Well, so just so your audience knows, so Father Bryce is a great horseman. And when I met him and he came there, he was loading his horse in the back of his pickup truck and unloading it in the back of the pickup truck. And he's throwing little kids up on the back of this horse. And I mean, just as gentle as can be. And then I found out he had gotten this horse off the open range. And how old was it when he got it?
He's probably 4.
4 years old, had been running wild with the Brumbies, as they say in the what's the Man from Snowy River. Yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, he said, "Hey, I want you to show me what you know." And I said, "Man, you know plenty. I don't need. You're not going to learn anything from me." And to his credit, you kind of drew me back into that world. And he said, I just want to know what you know. I want to learn as much as I can. You were kind of doing what I did when I was in Sundance, same type of thing. Even though you grew up in a ranching environment, had been around horses, you wanted to learn even more. And to your credit, I said, okay, I'll talk to you like a 4-year-old. This works for me. I'm not saying this is the best way or the right way, but it works. And when I'm done with a horse, you can teach it to be a barrel horse, you can teach it to be a reining horse, or whatever you want to do. And oh, by the way, it's not going to be bomb-proof, right? Mm-hmm. And so we got to spend some time with Molly, and never once did you ever say, well, don't you think it'd be better if we did it this way? Or don't you think, you just took in the information. Now, maybe some of it you're like, I wouldn't do that. But you never interrupted the flow of what I was doing. You just took it all in. And that was, I learned a lot in listening from you just on that, because it's to already be a good horseman, be a good cowboy, and to humble yourself to that level to go, no, I just truly want to know what you know.
Yeah.
That was very touching to me.
Oh, it's interesting. I mean, it's good to have that kind of perspective brought back to you, and I can see where you're coming from, and it was a great experience. I definitely learned a lot.
Well, I never felt like I was a horse trainer either.
Yeah.
I knew what I knew, and I knew what I could do. I guess, because you see these guys and they have their clinics and they do all their stuff, and man, they know a million times more than I do, and they've started a million more horses. I've started a lot, but I never really felt like, same way. Like I was still learning all the time,
Yeah.
still asking questions to people that all the time,
That's
So
awesome. No, I mean, when we were doing that, it was probably good for you because you had to reach back a ways, but then you were teaching it. So, I mean, you were kind of presented to me, putting on your own little clinic in a sense. And so you're really kind of having to, reach.
As we were doing it, yeah, exactly. Because I remember I couldn't say, okay, today we're going to do this.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see
I
what
would
he wants.
just grab the horse and start working, and it would start coming back to me as I was doing it, because it had been, I don't know how long, 4 or 5 years or so, maybe longer than that, but yeah.
That was fun. That's the horse I ride her, especially if I'm riding with someone else, Molly.
Yeah.
And she's fun, and she's a challenge. She's a spirited horse.
Yep.
But we did good with her, and she continues to do well. And
she hasn't dumped you yet.
Well, she has, but not anymore.
Okay.
I know her tricks. But there's so much to like the first horse I started, Chief, and I had plenty of help with that horse too. But there was a gal that was going to school at Laramie Catholic, LCCC in Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And they have a horse program, and she goes, "Oh, you're going to start that horse? I'm so excited for you. You're going to learn so much about yourself."
Boy, isn't that the truth?
I'm like,
wow,
serious? And yeah, you do. You start working the horse, you learn a lot about yourself.
100%.
Yeah, and so that dynamic still goes on. I think the one interesting, what you bring to the table, maybe even myself, was a little bit of unconventional cowboying. We didn't grow up.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up, ranching every day kind of stuff. Grew around it a little bit. So what I saw with you is like, there's a humbleness in entering in. Hey, could you help me? I don't know, and being able to receive. But then I think the other good thing is you see things that guys don't, because this is how Dad did it. We just grew up doing it this way. Like, well, why? Or, kind of seeing different perspectives, and that I think it's really a gift in the horse world, you might say, and I think just in life in general, kind of new perspective.
Well, you see that with a lot of professions, right? And I think I probably related the story to you. There's certain things in cowboy world that are sort of mysterious, right? One, I was talking about horseshoeing.
Yeah.
Well, there's some science to it, and I mean, you can write it down on paper, and it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? Bits were always that way for me, because if you go in someone's tack room, you see
they have 6 horses and 30
bits, right? And you're like, what? Well, why this bit? Well, just use it. And a lot of times the guys are in a hurry, and this.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to a good buddy of mine, and he is a cowboy. This guy's in the saddle every single day, and he wanted to help me start that horse, my very first horse that I was going to do. A neighbor gave me this mare, and then she foaled, and I was going to take the baby back. I said, "Hey, you didn't," because she didn't know the mare was pregnant.
Yeah.
And she said, "Nope, that's yours too." I thought, well, okay, here it is. I want to learn how to train this horse and have it be my buddy, right? So that's when I started asking a lot of people for help. And I remember the first guy he was kind of helping me. This guy was knew the natural horsemanship way and was a good guy. And I started to get frustrated with the process. And I said, you know what? I said, can you just do this for me? Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. I'll pay you, whatever. He said, well, I thought you wanted to learn how to do this. And I said, I did, but we're running out of time. And the greatest answer, he said, do you see a watch on that horse's leg? And I said, no. And he goes, he ain't wearing one. It don't matter. He said, we can, and that's so true. And I didn't realize. And granted, it's easier to start a horse, when they're 2 or 3 years old. But you can start a horse at 8 years old if you had to. They start getting a mind of their own when they're out in the pasture working with other horses and stuff. But you can still do a lot of the same things and accomplish what you want. So that was a great lesson for me in patience and in the way the mind of the horse works and that sort of thing. Anyway, this other buddy of mine I mean, I just had I've ridden probably thousands of miles with it. I mean, I had the utmost respect for him on every single level of Cowboy world. He kind of breaks him the old way, and it works for him, and it's fine. I don't disrespect him whatsoever. But I wanted to take my time with this horse and really get to be, understand him, and learn it. And so I was doing that. He kept saying, when are you going to bring that colt over so we can get him started? Oh, I'm going to bring him. I'll bring him over. And then finally, when I brought him over, I'd already started.
Gotcha. You're right.
And so he never said a word to me. He never looked down, but we had to go move some cows, and it was snowing, and it was pretty rough weather, and I rode that colt, and he'd give me little tips along the way, but didn't. It was sort of an understanding of good job.
Nice.
He didn't. Yeah. So that was kind of a cool deal. I'm not sure why I was telling.
Well, it's because the bit. I want to hear.
The bits. That's bits. That's right. This same guy. Yeah. So I was asking him. Sorry about that, folks. I get going down rabbit trails sometimes. We do, don't we?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So I was asking him about bits, and I said, "But why this bit? Why this shank?" The shank is the thing that goes along the side where the reins connect to, and then there's a mouthpiece that goes in that sits on the bars of the horse where there's no teeth, and then there's a deal that will press against the palate of the horse, and that's how they can bring their head in.
Collect.
Collect. I didn't know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
I just knew there's a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And what bit do you want to use for starting? What bit do you want to use for this part and this? Oh, this is good for barrel horse. This is good for roping. There's just tons of different thoughts. And so I was curious about all that. I wanted to know, okay, why this bit? And I kept asking him over and over about this certain bit that he had. And he kind of answered me a little bit. And then finally he says, it's because that's what my dad used.
Dad did it this way. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. I know it works. Yeah. I don't want to have this discussion anymore. And he was right. It's just like, okay, fair enough. That it works. And it's, he never had dug that deep into it and didn't care to it.
Yeah,
he knew it worked, and it was fine. So
yeah, there's plenty of ways of starting a horse and plenty of ways of riding one, honestly. But
yep,
that's always a classic story. And
yeah,
yep, just kind of shows you the full spectrum of curiosity of kind of outsiders, curious guys looking in, or but have a language of it and just kind of ingrained. This is just how we've always done it, and there's merit to both for sure.
Well, you were talking about being humble earlier. We were, and I think part of the reason I got the best experience there in Sundance and was accepted into the community that way was because I didn't try to tell people how to do things. I would just, because you'll see that people will move in and they'll accept it. Well, come on in. And they'll say, well, why don't you do it this way?
So who did it back in Colorado?
Yeah, and maybe they're right.
Yeah.
But don't enter it that way. You just, if you want to be part of that culture, I mean, that's kind of a standard thing, is that's what brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
You were in love with that, and now you want to change it when you come in. Mm-hmm. You were talking about the stoplights. Mm-hmm. After you talked about that, there was Alan Leslie. He used to own a gas station in town. And he said that's why he came to Sundance, because they didn't have a stoplight. I didn't realize the whole county didn't have it.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, I think you're right. But he said, when they put a stoplight in Sundance, I'm moving.
He's out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
And so.
Yeah, no, you see that a lot in Wyoming. Well, I mean, not so much, because people do want to come here for the rural way of life.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot of change. And you see places that have changed. Montana's changed. Western Montana's changed a lot. And but no, it's beautiful. And these cultures are very accepting when you just be yourself and accept them for what they are. And
be who you are.
Yeah, that's a big
Don't
deal.
pretend you're something you're not.
That's the cowboy way.
That's it.
Yep. And one thing that in my time working with you in the round pen is I really like your command. It's not soft. It's very authoritative, but always wanting to kind of bring out the best in the horse, kind of reading where it's at, but not letting him get away with anything. It's also not too hard and domineering out of fear. It's just, I found it to be a real great balance approach to horsemanship. And but I can't help but think, and in fact, I've seen it, how it's translated into you working with kids mainly, maybe your own kids, but then as a teacher, as a coach, the way you work with people in general, it kind of has that same love and compassion, but also like a, good authority. I don't know. So how do you think
Oh man, it's crazy. It's like you're reading right into my soul. Because my wife, actually, when I first started training, working with horses and whatnot, I would get frustrated occasionally because I'd be working with a customer and I'm like, I don't understand why they can't get this.
The customer.
Yeah, the customer. Yeah. Why aren't they getting? I'm trying to show them how to do a certain thing. Like
in the saddle or
on the ground or whatever, and they just can't get it. And I've showed it over and I showed it every which way I could think, and they can't get it. My wife said, not everybody can do it, I guess.
Fair enough.
And I didn't believe that. Okay. I felt like,
hey, if I can do it.
Yeah, and there is a science to it, right? It's not rocket science either. If you just know certain things, and I learned a lot of that from talking to people and RFT, television. You can do this, but where were we?
Well, just the working with the horse has helped you in relations with other people. So being kind of compassionate. It's whatever. Yeah. So
Cindy, my wife, she would say that with the kids when they were little. I got back up just one little bit. Sort of the godfather, Ray Hunt, right? Of natural horsemanship. He had a saying, and it was make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. That's horse training.
Yeah.
So you don't force the animal to do what you want them to do. You make the thing you want them to do real easy,
idea,
right?
Horse, yeah.
And horses work off of pressure. They're a prey animal. So if you put a lot of pressure on it, they're going to run away. So you can harness that a little bit by putting the right amount of pressure to get them to move their back end this way.
To go.
And then you remove it. Exactly. And that's what I think you and I, when we were working with Molly, was teaching you a lot of that stuff. It starts with their head, where you'll pull that head around to where it's kind of tight, and they're going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And you're kind of pulling them around, and as soon as they get to a stopping point, you leave it there. And you might stand there. You probably remember this.
You're committed. You're
standing there for maybe 5 minutes, and it's a standoff, and the horse has got their head turned like this. You're not jerking it around. It's just to where it gets that stopping point, and then you're holding the hips so the hips don't go away. You're pulling that head to you, waiting, and finally at some point that horse goes like this, and just gives, and you let go of it. And that's where it all begins.
You just taught him.
Yep. You taught them how to learn too.
Yeah.
Because everything from then on, all the way to reining, picking up their feet, everything is the exact same
pressure
type of
release. Yeah.
That's it. Pressure and release. So you put a little bit of pressure, and then bit by bit, it starts getting more and more. Pretty soon that horse is putting their head all the way into the flank, and then it's getting super soft, and you're bringing their head around. And what a pleasure to ride when they get like that too. Because then you're riding with the horse. You're not, come on, let's go. Yeah. But so with kids, so Cindy would notice that with the kids in the house, and I'd try to think of an example maybe where I would just make the right thing easy and the wrong thing too. Okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine, but it's gonna be tough, right? And then that, of course, I am a wrestling coach and a teacher, and I unconsciously do that with kids. And my wife would even say, "You're doing it with me."
Yeah. Okay, cross the line.
Yeah, trying to get, don't you do that horse stuff with me. Because I'm trying to get her to do what I want her to do by, kind of pressure and release of pressure. She goes, "I've heard you talk about it enough. I know what you're doing to me right now."
So it's hilarious. But I mean, part of the deal, like with the round pin, it's disobeying. Okay, whether kid or horse, it's not doing what I want to, and it knows what the right thing to do is, right? I mean, it in a sense, and
not at first.
Yeah, not at first.
It has no idea.
You've got him to do this, but yet he still wants to like I've given him some freedom. We've been working, and all of a sudden he kind of sees an opportunity to kind of like dart.
Right.
And so then you get after it.
Right.
And you work him around the round pin.
Right.
And that's the wrong thing. And just so you know that that's the wrong thing, I'm going to make it really difficult.
Yeah.
We're going to run laps here for a minute.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm back. Okay, I'm not going to. He in his mind, I mean, know it. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take that little opportunity
Yep.
that I know I shouldn't,
Yep.
because I'd run 5 laps around the round pen because of it, you know?
Right.
So that's making the wrong thing difficult.
That's a perfect example, and that's actually the first lesson, right? So you run a colt that's you've never even put a halter on it yet, and it's in a round pen. It's round so that it can't get caught in corners.
Sure.
Because a horse will run to a corner and then they'll put their butt to you, because that's once they're cornered.
Yeah.
That's how they fight, right? They're going to kick at you from their hind end. So a round pen makes it so there's no corners. They're like, okay, where can I get away from this guy? And then so what you'll do is you start the horse traveling in one direction, and then you cut them off. So they're running this way, kind of step in front of them, and they're going to go the other way. But the key is you aren't allowed to turn your back to me.
Gotcha. That's right. You turn with your head in front.
I want that head coming to me this way. So you can go back the other way when I cut you off, but you need to turn with your face toward me, not your butt toward me. And then, so that's where a little bit of knowing what you're doing comes in there a little bit, so you can get them to cut off. So you do that, and over time, and not very much time usually, you can get the horse to do what's called hook on.
Oh yeah, that's really beautiful.
It really is, isn't it? So you get them traveling to the left, get them traveling to the right, and you kind of give them a chance to run a little bit, and they're getting a little sweaty, and they'll always have that eye on you, and they're kind of looking out of that eye, and they're watching you, what's he want me to do? Well, I'll cut you down. And if they turn their butt toward you, that's when you'd see me really get after them. And I'll beat the ground, or I'll throw a rope at them, kind of get them.
Sure.
Yeah, get after them a little. Nope, we're not doing it that way. And I'll make them come back to the exact same spot. And now you turn toward me. And once they get that, back off.
And eventually, what they're learning is that, like, hey, it's a lot easier to, I mean, once I learn what this guy wants, it's a lot easier to kind of do what he wants me to do than to do all this work.
And then you're not running them around the pen hard either. Then they can just trot.
Yeah.
You're going, yep, good job. And then they're like, wow, this is pretty good. And then the hooking on, what you'll do is they've got their eye on you, and then kind of sending them from their tail end, and then just kind of back off, and that horse will come right to you. And then I've showed you, I'll stand there like this, and I don't know if I learned this through the stuff, but don't make eye contact.
Don't look them in the eye.
Yeah. Just let them come to you, and then you stand here like this, and they'll come right up, and they'll put their face right next to you, and it is beautiful.
And that is the loving side of a horse. Yeah. I mean, it's not
Exactly.
domineering, but it's.
They want to be led at that point. And then you can kind of walk away with them, and they'll just stay right with you.
I remember calling too those days. What you really did make a science. I mean, you portrayed the science of it. I mean, because the hooking on, that's where the horse whisperer thing comes. Oh my goodness, look what just happened. Yeah. And actually, it's not magic.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Right.
But no,
there's
it's
technique involved.
Yeah. And it's I'm gonna keep busting him in the hind, and then here we go. Okay, took a step.
Yeah.
How about 2 steps? Okay, and then bam, he's on. And he gets, I want to follow you. I mean, there is that relationship too.
Well, when you're teaching somebody too, it's like, well, why isn't it working for me? That's because you stepped in front of their shoulder.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's that little bit of understanding where you need to be in relation. So there is technique going on there.
And I would agree with your wife. You do have a gift. I've been in the pen with you, and I can see it. I feel like I can write a book about, Paul Casey horse training.
on, man.
But I get in the round pen, and I'm stifled. I've been around it enough to know it's really not my gig.
Well, you're a little more. I think just listening to you earlier, it comes a lot from your early roots. You're heavier handed.
Probably.
That's where it is.
Probably.
Not that you aren't gentle and loving with the horses, but you're heavier handed when you're trying to train them. Kind of, and so that's probably comes from, get on, boy, and hang on, grab leather, let's go.
Yeah,
and I didn't have that experience like you did.
Interesting. Well, I think that, I mean, just that's a perfect example of being insightful, not just with the horse, but then with guys too. You can kind of help them kind of see things where they're coming from or whatnot. It's just a real versatile tool to have, to be able to kind of see things for what they are and help other people see them too.
Well, it's weird to sit here and talk like this because I'm very humbled by your words.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I guess it's a gift. It's not. It does. I don't see it. That it's just who I am. You know. I don't try to. I don't think it's some. It's just.
Yeah,
It's real obvious to me.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
when you point it out, it's like, no, it's really cool that you do this. And
Yeah.
that's just kind of what I do. You know.
It is, but I mean, and we all have, charisms in
Sure.
a sense, and I really think even, whether it's listed as one of the charisms of St. Paul or not, but like of teaching, of things like that, and I do think that, I mean, I can weld, I mean, somewhere I had the kind of constructive mind, and so I can kind of run with that. You more, have a kind of natural ability to maybe teach, or whether it's a horse or a kid, or so. I mean, I don't doubt it's a God-given talent, gift, charism that we have to cooperate with, but it is cool to see it unfold. I mean, the way you work with kids, your own, and the kids at school, they love you.
Yeah.
And you'll walk into your classroom, super fun.
Yeah.
Super fun, but like, hey, oh, they just we're quiet. Dad just spoke. We're quiet. So it's a cool command, but in a very respectful way. And so, no doubt, it's kind of translated over.
This is a dad thing.
Stuff. Yeah, I'm sure.
Growing up, and I'm sure you had the same thing. We had the dad look.
Gotcha.
Right, your father had the dad look, and you just know. Boom.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's something that me and the PE teacher's also a guy, and a daddy, and we bring that to the staff. It gives the staff a little bit. We've got mommies on staff and we got daddies on staff, and both have their own goodness that helps the kids and bring out the best from them. For me, with education, it's just I love learning.
Sure.
I love interesting things, and learning as much as I can about them, and I just want everybody else to know it too.
Nice.
You were joking with me on the Ireland thing, Father Price. It was St. Columbanus, I think.
Colombian. Well, it's
Columbanus
right in there.
yeah. So anyway, it was his day, and we were going somewhere to go work
hunting cows, man.
Looking for cows.
We were
That's
slaughtering cattle.
So and you said, hey, it's St. Columbanus' day, and I said, oh really? Well, let me tell you about it.
The whole way home from Ride, I couldn't get out of the pickup.
So I gave Father Bryce an abbreviated version for about an hour and a half, the whole history of Ireland and how Ireland actually saved civilization and spread Christianity all the way back through all of Europe. And if you'd like to hear that sometime, you can maybe do it.
I probably got my side of the story recorded somewhere.
Yeah.
That's super fun. No, it's always a kick. And I mean, one virtue I think that I'd like to kind of highlight for you is compassion. And it's such an interesting virtue. And I wrote about it just in my first book. Is one time I was telling my cousin I was fired up. I was about this John Eldridge. He kind of has this Wild at Heart book, and my cousin responded, said, "Yeah, man, the world could need some more compassionate men." I'm like, compassionate? But it really is a manly virtue. And, a guy that we can have this talk, but and we can go work horses and ride horses and do a lot of cool cowboy stuff. But I can also open my heart to you, and that's a virtue that is respect in a lot of men.
Yeah.
But just an example I thought of with you is, so we were started another horse, old Red. Red was a little longer in the tooth, and so he had kind of mind of his own a little bit, and then we got him going. And it was really beautiful to watch the way you're able to get a halter on this horse. 4 years old, wasn't even halter broke, and we got him halter broke, and then we just took him step by step, and eventually in the saddle. So part of my heavy-handedness is I'm a little, like most people, want to get in the saddle. The patience thing is tougher there. And, in all reality, and I mean, there's always reasons behind it. I mean, I was called, I had to go to Buffalo. I had, my time was winding down in Gillette, in a round pen. I needed to go to Buffalo to, serve as priest and pastor there. But anyway, so we got in the saddle, we rode him out of the pen, and then my buddy had a branding the next day, and I'm like, it's time to ranch. So I I said, hey, I think I'm going to take him out, right? And I remember you kind of being, you sure about that? And you know, you let me run, you let me do my thing, and so I took that horse down to that branding, and I wasn't going to drag calves with it, you know, but I'm going to give him some outdoor experiences. So throw the saddle on this new colt. Man, I was looking good, man. Hat, chaps, buttoned up, you know.
He's a beautiful
And
horse.
it was a cool red roan. Yep. And so we take off. I'm good, you know, and I'm riding, and I just give him all this rein, you know, because I want to be a soft horse, you know. And all of a sudden, something spooked, and he's bucking. And I'm like, by the time I even know he's bucking, I'm over the swells, you know, and I get piled up right in the front of all these riders, you know. And I'm like, dang, you know, I mean, just like wind out of your sails right away. And then you know, gather them up, get back on, and we ride out the rest of the day. And I mean, and, you know, we kind of peeled off and pushed some cows and called it good. And then I kind of how the rest of that story was, I did go back. I was like, hey, I had a buddy with me. Let's go back. I lost my sunglasses. We'll go back to the spot. We'll correct it. We'll end on a good note. Always want to end on a good note. And we got to that spot. Whatever was spooking him, he spooks again. This time, you know, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And I grab Leather. I bring him around. And in his bucking, he just pulled it dirty and just rolled on me. And this time he got up and got away and runs to the corner of the corral and of the pasture. So Father Bryce, all duded up, is chaps and all, is walking back. I'm like, this is hilarious. But you know, to be honest, like what I was dreading the most was calling you.
No, man.
Yeah, I mean, just I was like, we'd worked so hard on this horse,
Yeah.
and I, you know, imprudently pulled him out early, and then I like in my mind I ruined the horse, you know. I mean, and so I call you, and your first words are like, "Are you okay?" You know, and I'm like, "Well, my knees hurt, my pride hurts." But yeah, thanks for asking. You know, and I just, it was a very freeing response the way you responded to that, and I think it was compassionate. You know, that wasn't, yeah, dude, I let you run. I let you. I mean, I'm reading into it, but I wouldn't have taken the horse out that early. You thought best, and maybe you were right. I didn't know, but I let you do it. And you learn the hard way. Let's go back to the pin. You know, we went back to the practice pin, went back to the round pin, and I was back on him, you know, and we picked up from where we left off, you know. But it was a cool response. I just want you to hear that. It was a cool response.
Well, I remember when it happened. I don't remember that conversation.
Cool.
But that's nice to relate that, I guess.
No, I think it's a good way. It's a good way to have that kind of, I mean, just it's authentic authority. Our Father's the same way. God in heaven's the same way. He's like, I wouldn't do that, but you and your free will, I'll let you.
Yeah.
And then when you come back home, all right, son, let's go back to pen. Let's do it the right way.
Well, I think the other part of it too is you know, I wasn't there.
Sure. Yeah, you're respectful.
I actually felt when you described it, and I still feel this way, and I know I've told you this, that came out of a mistake that I made with that horse when I was training.
Oh, sure.
And it'd be too complicated to try to explain. There's a point where you when you're training them, you bring the rope around. So if the horse is facing that way and their butt's this way, you'll take the lead rope around their hind end and you get them to actually turn away from you and turn into you.
Super. Not what they would normally do.
Not what they normally.
Side,
yeah, and we've been teaching them to turn toward us the whole time, right?
But the pressure says,
and and now he's got to go that way, exactly. So they got to spin the opposite way. I don't know if you remember when this happened, but I was doing that with the horse and maybe got in a little bit of a hurry, same type of thing.
Sure.
And he blew up, and he was safe. We were in a safe pen and everything, but he reared up, and I just tried to stay with him and make him do it.
Yeah.
And I ended up losing the rope.
Yeah. He won that one.
He won. So with a horse, and I think probably with humans too, you know, they always say, you know, bad habits are hard to break.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of once they know they can do something, that's where they, like cows, you know, cows, once there's a hole in the fence, they're going to keep going back to that same hole, right?
Sure.
And so it was kind of that deal, and I never felt good. Felt like we never really fixed that with him.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, you're on him, and what did he do? He pulled that way and said,
Sure.
"No, I'm going to keep going."
Yeah.
And so I always had a little sense of guilt on that
Yeah, fair enough.
particular deal, but I'm glad you got some goodness out of it.
Oh
from
yeah,
our
I mean those are.
conversation.
I've learned more from hitting the dirt than about riding.
Yeah.
I've learned more from hitting the dirt than
Oh, for
anything,
sure.
and that's life.
Yeah, you never know it all, dude.
No.
I mean it's just a constant, and I think that's with everything. I used to like to fly fish, and I hung around with guys that were great at it, you know, but it's just you're constantly learning.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be the entomology or the different types of bugs, the weather, and just everything that particular stream and water temperature. It just goes on and on and on, and it's never the same.
Sure.
And I think horse training's the same. Every time I walk into a classroom, a bunch of little kids, you know, I don't know what's happened for any one of those individual children that day or that night,
Sure.
or what's going on in their little world. You know, what's happening with their family and stuff. And so, you know, I guess I feel like my job as a music teacher is to get the kids to, you know, just love Jesus through singing and dancing, and have fun with it. And I want John Paul II Catholic School to be a place of joy every time they walk in there.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got, even little kids got stress. You don't know what it is. And we're a nice school. And we got great families. But families have difficult times, you know, and those kids absorb a lot of that. And so I just want them to be able to come into school and it always to be a place that they can feel the love and that compassion you're talking about. You know, and every teacher on our staff has these moments with different kids where, hey, can I talk to you? You know, and they're going through a tough time for whatever, you know. And so, but anyway, that's I appreciate you saying that. And anyway.
No, it's true. I mean, compassion. Our Lord says to love your neighbor as yourself. In a sense, like put yourself in their shoes. Just kind of imagine what they might be going through, even if you don't know it. You know, and that gives you kind of a heart that is a little bit more, you know, soft in a good way.
Yeah.
Than versus heavy-handed. Come on, shape up or whatever, you know. And just it's a good perspective.
Well, I don't know if your dad was like this. My dad was this way, and I think I've been this way with my own children. I've got the old Irish temper, right? So I can get loud and throw a little fit or whatever when we're working on something. I bust my knuckles. I'm underneath the tractor fixing it, right? But then something really serious happens. Kids come home and it's Dad. That's when I would always get chill.
Yeah.
You know, just go, okay, tell me
go.
what happened. All right, we're all right. We're gonna survive this. Little stuff,
Fair
act like an idiot, right?
Fair enough. That's
But
what they're saying.
the big stuff,
Yeah, okay.
and they joke about that. The kids
Okay.
joke about that. But I always wanted them. I didn't think about this. I think it's the way my father was. You know, that there was always. My dad was a great man. So was my mom, and just a good, loving man and a man's man. You know, tough guy. But you always knew he loved you, and always knew, you know, if something if you've screwed up, that's how our Father is, right? If you've really screwed up, you're good. Come see me.
Yeah.
Come see me. I will help you, no matter what. I'm always going to be there for you. I want my kids to know that too.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I think they do. I think your kids at school, your wrestling kids, which you just you know, just won the state champion three times, 3 years in a row. So
Yeah, we did. I'm just an assistant there. We're all a
Yeah.
big team, you know, but it's fun to be a part of that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's good fruit. I mean, I think you can tell a lot about the root by the fruit it produces. Your family's, you got a good family, loving family, 3 kids, wife, and, you know, the kids at school, myself. You're just a good mentor, and I always call you Barnabas, you know, son of encouragement. You know, you're all about encouragement goes a long ways, you know.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just appreciate you coming on. You know, even this outside, we go on forever, probably better
Yeah.
wind it down, but you've just always been on my corner, man. From bronc riding to starting colts to
100%.
doing a podcast. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I appreciate it. So keep up the good work, my friend. I
Buddies
appreciate
for
you being
life.
on
Absolutely.
this. Yeah.
Thank
And
you, Father.
keep portraying the faith through the way you live your life.
Thank
It's working. So thanks for being on the show.
Can't
God
do
bless
without you.
Yeah, we need each other.
Yeah.
For sure. So thanks for being on the show, and thanks everybody for
welcome.
watching. God
Thank you
bless
all.
you all. So keep up the good work.
Okay. God bless you.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.